The warning lights painted Captain Relvash's face in red and orange. His six-fingered hands moved across the control panel, but nothing responded. The main engine was dead. The backup system was dead. Even the emergency thrusters gave only weak sputters before dying completely. "Status report," Relvash said, keeping his voice steady. His crew needed him to be calm. Chief Science Officer Yelmar looked up from his station. His large eyes, built for seeing in low light, reflected the emergency lights. Main power coupling exploded. The blast damaged 3 other systems. "I cannot repair it with what we have on board." Relvash felt his secondary heart skip a beat. They were in the outer reach sectors, the empty space between the spiral arms of the galaxy. No planets, no stations, no trade routes. They had come here following strange energy readings, hoping to make an important discovery. Now that decision might kill them all. "Send a distress signal," Relvash ordered. "Standard emergency frequency. Include our position and situation." Yelmar's fingers danced across his console. "Signal sent. It will take time for anyone to receive it. We are very far from normal patrol routes." "Fauna route. Ask." End quote. "How far?" "The nearest known outpost is 3 weeks away at standard cruising speed." 3 weeks. Relvash pulled up the life support data on his screen. The numbers were bad. "How long do we have?" 8 days of oxygen," Yelmar said quietly. "Maybe 9, if we use stasis protocols and reduce our activity. 8 days. And rescue was 3 weeks away, at minimum." The math was simple and cruel. Relvash looked around the bridge at his crew of 14. They were all watching him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. The Velkari were a careful species. They planned everything. They prepared for every possibility. But out here, in this empty void, all their preparations meant nothing. "Activate stasis protocols," Relvash said. "Everyone except essential personnel will enter low-activity mode. We conserve every bit of oxygen we can." The crew moved to follow his orders. They had trained for emergencies, but training was different from reality. Relvash could see the fear in their eyes, smell it in the air. They all knew the odds. Yelmar stayed at his station, monitoring the distress signal. "The signal is broadcasting correctly. If anyone is within range, they will hear it." "How far does it reach?" "At full strength, about 15 light years. But this sector is empty. The chances of someone being close enough to help in time are very small." Relvash nodded slowly. He activated his personal log, recording what might be his final words. His voice was steady as he spoke into the recorder. "This is Captain Relvash of the research vessel Luminous Horizon. We have suffered catastrophic engine failure in Sector 794 of the Outer Reach. We sent a distress signal, but rescue seems unlikely to arrive in time. It is a cruel irony to die so close to a potentially important discovery. We detected unusual energy readings in this region, unlike anything in our records. Now, we will never know what they meant." He paused, thinking of his family back on the Velkari homeworld. His mate, his children. Would they understand why he had taken this mission? Why he had gone so far from safety? "To whoever finds this log, tell my family I was thinking of them at the end. Tell them the universe is bigger and stranger than we know. Tell them to keep exploring, even though it costs us everything." He closed the log and looked at the view screen. Space stretched in all directions, black and empty and infinite. Somewhere out there, their distress signal was spreading through the void at the speed of light, a tiny cry for help in an ocean of darkness. The hours crawled by. Relvash and Yelmar stayed on the bridge, watching the sensors, hoping for something, anything. The rest of the crew entered stasis mode, their bodies slowing down to conserve oxygen. The ship grew quiet. Only the hum of the failing life support systems broke the silence. 4 hours since we sent the signal, Yelmar reported. His voice sounded tired. Still no response. Relvash was about to respond when suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Yelmar jumped at his console, his eyes going wide. "Captain, proximity alert." "What?" Relvash leaned forward. "Something is near us?" "Very near. Less than 1,000 kilometers. It just appeared on sensors. Something massive just dropped out of FTL travel right next to us." Relvash felt his blood turn cold. 1,000 kilometers was nothing in space terms. That was practically touching them. And nothing should be this far out in the empty sectors. Nothing friendly anyway. "Identify it," he ordered. Yelmar's fingers flew across his controls. The main screen flickered and showed an image that made Relvash's breath catch. A ship. No, not just a ship. A battleship. Massive, angular, covered in weapon systems. It looked aggressive, built for war. And it was not any design in their database. "Unknown vessel type," Yelmar said, his voice shaking. "But the power readings are enormous. Captain, that ship could destroy us with one shot." Before Relvash could respond, their communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke, using the standard galactic trade language, but with an accent Relvash did not recognize. "Valkyrie vessel Luminous Horizon. This is Commander Junho Kim of the Human Mechanized Space Force battleship Dauntless. We received your distress call. What is your situation?" Relvash and Yelmar stared at each other in shock. 4 hours. 4 hours from distress signal to rescue. In a sector where the nearest help should be 3 weeks away. Humans. They had heard stories about humans. The new species. The strange ones, who did things differently. Relvash found his voice. "Commander Kim, this is Captain Relvash. We have total engine failure. We are stranded. Our oxygen will last 8 days. Maybe 9. Copy that, Horizon. We are dispatching our engineering team now. Sit tight. We will have you fixed up soon." The voice sounded almost cheerful. As if rescuing stranded ships in the middle of nowhere was normal. As if appearing 4 hours after a distress call was nothing special. Relvash looked at Yelmar. His science officer looked just as confused as he felt. This was impossible. But it was happening. On the view screen, the human battleship loomed large against the stars, and small shuttles were already launching from its hangar bays. Captain Relvash watched through the external cameras as the human shuttles approached. They moved fast, much faster than he expected. 3 small craft, each carrying what looked like 6 or 7 humans in bulky armor suits. They did not slow down gently. They just stopped. Somehow. Right next to the damaged sections of his ship. "They are wearing powered armor," Yelmar said, zooming in on the video feed. "I have heard of this. The armor lets them work in space like they are walking on a planet." Relvash watched as the humans began attaching to his ship's hull. They moved with purpose, with confidence. No hesitation. They looked like they had done this 1,000 times before. A message came through on the communication channel. "Captain Relvash, this is Lieutenant Hana Park. I am the Chief Engineering Officer of the Dauntless. My team is going to start repairs now. We need to access your engine room. Can you open the starboard airlock?" "Yes, of course," Relvash said. He nodded to Yelmar, who opened the airlock. Minutes later, 3 humans in powered armor stomped into the engine room. Relvash and Yelmar hurried down to meet them. The humans were tall, taller than Valkyrie. Their armor made them look even bigger, like walking tanks. One of them removed their helmet. A human female with short dark hair looked at them and smiled. "Captain Relvash, I am Lieutenant Park. This is my team. We are going to get you moving again." "Thank you," Relvash said. "But I must ask, how did you get here so fast? We only sent the distress signal 4 hours ago. The nearest outpost is 3 weeks away." Lieutenant Park's smile grew wider. "The nearest civilian outpost, yes, but we are not at an outpost. The Dauntless patrols. The outer reach sectors. When we heard your signal, we calculated you had maybe 8 days of air. So we came immediately. But the distance, Yelmar said. To travel that far in 4 hours, you would need to push your FTL drive beyond safe limits. Yes, Park said simply. She said it like it was nothing, like risking their ship and crew to save strangers was just normal. Relvash did not know what to say. Another human approached, a male with a toolkit that looked more advanced than anything Relvash had seen. I am Chief Engineer Taeho Shin. Let me see your engine. Taeho moved to the damaged power coupling and whistled, a strange human sound. This is bad. But I have seen worse. We can fix it. He turned to his team and started giving orders in rapid human language. They moved like a machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. How long will repairs take? Relvash asked. 2 days, maybe less, Taeho said, not looking up from his work. We brought spare parts. Your ship uses a Valkyrie J-class coupling, right? We have 3 of those on the Dauntless. You carry Valkyrie parts? Why? Taeho finally looked at him. We carry parts for every major species ship types. You never know who you will need to rescue. That word, rescue. They said it so easily. Like this was their job. Their purpose. More humans entered the ship, carrying equipment, tools, and supplies. One of them, a female with a kind face, approached Relvash. She removed her helmet and bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. Captain Relvash. I am Lieutenant Yuna Choi, diplomatic officer of the Dauntless. Commander Kim asked me to check on your crew. Are they all okay? Does anyone need medical attention? We are all alive, Relvash said. But we have been on reduced rations, and we were very worried. Of course you were, Yuna said gently. Being stranded out here is scary. But you are safe now. We brought food and water, much more than you need, and our medical officer wants to check everyone, just to be sure. She gestured, and 2 more humans brought in crates of supplies. The amount was enormous. Enough food and water for weeks, not days. This is too much, Relvash protested. Better too much than too little, Yuna said. Besides, the Dauntless is well supplied. We can spare it. As the humans worked, Relvash noticed something. They were efficient, yes. Fast, yes. But there was something else. They seemed almost happy. Like saving his ship was giving them joy. Yelmar pulled him aside. Captain, I checked their ship's database signature. The Dauntless is only 3 years old, but the readings show extensive wear. Much more than a 3-year-old ship should have. What does that mean? It means they are telling the truth about pushing their FTL, drive hard, very hard. That kind of travel damages ships. They must do this often. Relvash looked back at the humans working on his engine. They were damaging their own ship to save others. And they did it again and again. Commander Kim's voice came over the communication channel. Captain Relvash, this is Kim. How are my people treating you? Kraus. Very well, Commander. Very well indeed. I must ask, why does your ship patrol this sector? There is nothing here. No trade routes, no colonies, no strategic value. There was a pause before Kim answered. That is exactly why we are here, Captain. Because there is nothing here. Most species avoid the empty sectors, but ships still travel through them sometimes, like yours. And when something goes wrong this far from help, people die. We decided that is not acceptable. But the cost, Relvash said. The wear on your ship, the resources, the danger to your crew. Why pay such a price for strangers? Actor, because someone has to, Kim said. His voice was firm, certain. And we can. So we do. And other. And other. And other. C1 reader, Kim said. Prospered. And other. Lieutenant Yuna was helping organize the supplies when Relvash approached her. May I ask you something? Of course, Captain. Your species is new to galactic society. Only 50 years since first contact. Most species spend their early years building their economy, expanding their territory. But you build ships like the Dauntless and send them to empty space. Why? Yuna stopped working and looked at him. Her face was serious now. Because we have been rescued before. When humans first went into space, when our ships failed, when we were lost and dying, we had to wait for help. Sometimes, help came too late. Sometimes we found ships full of dead people who ran out of air waiting for rescue. She paused, and her eyes looked distant, remembering something painful. We decided we would never let that happen to anyone else, if we could prevent it. We decided that when someone calls for help, they should hear an answer. Fast. But you risk so much. Yes, Yuna said. But what is the alternative? Letting people die alone in the dark? We cannot do that. It is not in our nature. Relvash felt something shift in his understanding. His species was careful, measured, cautious. They took calculated risks. They did not throw themselves into danger for strangers, but here were the humans, doing exactly that, and acting like it was the most natural thing in the universe. In the engine room, Tejo and his team were already making progress. The damaged coupling was being replaced. New systems were being installed. And through it all, the humans worked with a speed and skill that seemed almost impossible. 2 days, Tejo had said. Relvash was starting to believe him. On the view screen, the human battleship, Dauntless, hung in space, waiting, a guardian, in the darkness. And for the first time since the engine failed, Relvash felt something he had not expected to feel again. Hope. The first day of repairs passed quickly. Yelmar spent most of it watching the humans work. He took notes, recorded everything, because his scientific mind could not help itself. These humans were fascinating. They worked in shifts, never stopping. When one team grew tired, another team came from the Dauntless to replace them. The work continued without pause, day and night, though those words meant nothing in deep space. Lieutenant Yuna Choi stayed on the luminous horizon, making sure the Velkari crew had everything they needed. She brought meals, not just basic rations but real food, prepared in the Dauntless's kitchen. She brought entertainment, medical supplies, even small comfort items like blankets and reading materials. You do not need to do all this, Relvash told her. We are grateful for the rescue. But this is far beyond necessary. Yuna smiled that warm human smile. Necessary is the minimum. We do not aim for the minimum. We aim for what is right. She sat with Relvash in his quarters, drinking a warm beverage the humans called tea. It was pleasant, soothing. May I ask you a question, Lieutenant? Relvash said. Please, call me Yuna. And yes, ask anything. How did you get here so fast? I understand you were patrolling this sector. But 4 hours from signal to arrival, across what must have been several light years. That should not be possible. 1. Yuna set down her cup. Our FTL drives are different from most species. We built them to be fast. Very fast. Most species design their drives for efficiency and safety. They want smooth trips that do not stress the ship or crew. We designed ours for speed. But at what cost? The drives are hard on the ship, Yuna admitted. The jumps at high speed create stress on every system. We have to constantly maintain and repair. The Dauntless gets a full overhaul every 18 months. Most ships go 5 years between overhauls. Yelmar, who had been listening, spoke up. Yuna's expression became more serious. It is not comfortable. High-speed FTL creates effects on the body. Nausea, headaches, disorientation. We have medical treatments that help, but it still hurts. Some crew members cannot handle it. They transfer to other assignments. 1. But you stay, Relvash said. I stay. We all stay. Everyone on a rapid response ship volunteers. We know what we are signing up for. We know the cost. She looked at both of them. But we also know that somewhere out there, someone might need help. And when they do, we want to be close enough to answer. Relvash struggled to understand. Your species hurts itself to save strangers. This does not make logical sense. Maybe not, Yuna said. But it makes human sense. Later that day, Relvash went down to the engine room to check on progress. Tejo and his team had made incredible progress. The new power coupling was installed and connected. They were now working on the damaged secondary systems. We are ahead of schedule, Tejo said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Even with advanced tools, the work was physically demanding. We should finish by tomorrow evening. This is remarkable, Relvash said. How do you work so quickly? Tejo shrugged, a human gesture. Practice. The Dauntless has been on 3 rescue missions this month. Last month, it was 5. We get a lot of practice. 5 rescues in 1 month? In these empty sectors? Space is big, Tejo said. Ships have problems all the time. Most species have rescue services, but they stay near the populated areas. Out here, there is only us. Well, us and a few other human ships doing the same thing. How many ships does your species dedicate to this? In the Rapid Response Fleet? About 40 ships. They are spread across the outer sectors, the dangerous zones, the empty spaces. Anywhere help might be needed, but is hard to reach. 40 ships. 40 battleships, like the Dauntless, positioned in the most desolate parts of space, waiting. The resources that required, the personnel, the cost. It was staggering. Yelmar had been measuring the wear on the Dauntless, using their long-range sensors. He shared his findings with Relvash in private. Captain, the damage to that ship is extensive. The hull shows stress fractures that have been repaired multiple times. The FTL drive housing has been replaced at least twice. The internal systems show signs of repeated overload. That ship is being destroyed slowly by the work it does. And they know this? They must. No engineer could miss these signs. Relvash found Lieutenant Hannah Park in the Luminous Horizons mess hall, eating a quick meal between shifts. He sat across from her. Lieutenant Park, may I speak freely? Of course, Captain. Your ship is being damaged by the work you do. My science officer has measured it. The stress, the wear, the constant repairs. The Dauntless is dying faster than it should. Hannah did not seem surprised or upset. She just nodded. Yes, that is the price of rapid response. We push the ship hard. We push ourselves hard. But it is worth it. How can you say that? You are sacrificing your ship, your health, maybe your lives, because people like you are alive, Hannah said simply. You and your crew of 14. Last month, we saved 23 miners when their station failed. The month before, we pulled 41 colonists from a ship caught in a gravity well. Add it all up, Captain. Hundreds of lives saved. Yes, we pay a price. But what is a ship compared to hundreds of lives? But there must be another way. A safer way. Maybe, Hannah said. But a safer way would be slower. And slower means people die waiting. We chose fast over safe. We chose saving lives over protecting ourselves. She finished her meal and stood. I need to get back to work. We want to finish your repairs by tomorrow evening. We have a patrol route to complete, and there might be another ship out there that needs us. As she left, Relvash sat in silence. Kind people. But they were careful. They would never take the risks these humans took. They would never hurt themselves for strangers. That night, Commander Kim spoke with Relvash over the communication channel. His tone was friendly, relaxed. Captain, my crew tells me you have been asking questions about our operations. Yes, Commander. I hope I have not offended. Not at all. I understand your curiosity. We are unusual, even by human standards. Most humans think we are a little crazy. Are you? Kim laughed. Probably. You have to be a little crazy to volunteer for this job. But you also have to care. You have to believe that every life matters. Even lives you will never meet. Species you barely know. Why do you believe that? Because someone has to, Kim said. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Ships fail. Accidents happen. Disasters strike. Most species have accepted that sometimes people die alone and afraid, waiting for help that never comes. Humans decided, we cannot accept that. If there is even a small chance we can help, we have to try. Even if it costs you everything? Especially then, Kim said. Because that is when it matters most. When it is hard, when it is expensive, when it hurts. That is when you find out what you really believe. And we believe that no one should die alone in the dark, if we can prevent it. Relvash thought about his own close call with death. 8 days of air. 3 weeks from rescue. Without the humans, he and his crew would have died. They would have suffocated slowly, knowing no help was coming, knowing they would never see their families again. But the humans had come. They had pushed their ship to dangerous speeds. They had worked without rest. They had spent their resources and their health to save people they had never met. Thank you, Commander, Relvash said quietly. Thank you for being crazy enough to care. Just doing our job, Captain. See you when repairs are done. The communication ended, and Relvash looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other human ships were waiting, listening, ready to respond, standing watch in the empty places where no one else would go. Humanity was different. Reckless, impulsive, willing to hurt themselves for others. And maybe, Relvash thought, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The second day of repairs began early. Tejo and his team had worked through the night, and they looked tired, but determined. Relvash noticed dark circles under their eyes, the slight shake in their hands that came from exhaustion. You should rest, he told Tejo. You have been working too long. Tejo shook his head. We rest when the job is done. Your crew needs this ship working. We can sleep later. It was the same answer every human gave. The work came first. The people they were saving came first. They came last. Medical officer Sora Nam arrived to check on the human crew. She was a small woman with quick movements and sharp eyes. She examined each human worker, taking readings, checking vital signs. You are all exhausted, she said to them in human language. Then she switched to Galactic Standard and spoke to Relvash. Captain, my people are pushing themselves hard. This is normal for rescue operations. We train for this. But I want you to know they are doing this willingly. No one is forcing them. I can see that, Relvash said. But it worries me. They work until they can barely stand. Sora smiled tiredly. That is humanity for you. We do not know when to quit. It is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. She moved to Tejo and spoke quietly to him. He argued, gesturing at the engine, but she shook her head firmly. Finally, he nodded and called over another engineer to take his place. Sora had ordered him to rest for 4 hours. Even we have limits, Sora told Relvash. I have to make sure my people do not hurt themselves permanently. 4 hours rest. Then they can go back to work. As Tejo left to sleep, Relvash approached the new engineer, a young man named Jinwoo Huang. Jinwoo was a tactical officer on the Dauntless, but had engineering training as well. All human crews seemed to have multiple skills. Are you trained for this work? Relvash asked. Basic training, yes, Jinwoo said. On rapid response ships, everyone learns multiple jobs. We never know what skills we will need during a rescue. I can do basic engineering, medical first aid, pilot a shuttle, and operate weapon systems. That is many different skills. It has to be, Jinwoo said, connecting a power cable. When we jump into a crisis, we need to be ready for anything. A ship might need repairs, or medical help, or defense against pirates, or evacuation. We train for everything. Yelmar had been studying the humans with scientific interest. He approached Relvash with a datapad full of observations. Captain, I have been measuring the effects of their high-speed FTL travel on their bodies. The medical scans I took with Sora's permission show cellular damage consistent with repeated exposure to extreme FTL stress. Their bodies are being harmed by the work they do. How badly? Not life-threatening, but chronic. Like someone doing heavy physical labor every day for years. Their bodies age faster than they should. A 30-year-old human on this ship has the cellular age of a 40-year-old. 10 years of life, given away to save strangers. Relvash felt a deep sadness. Do they know? They must. Sora is their medical officer. She would tell them. Relvash found Sora in the medical bay, organizing supplies. Dr. Nam, may I ask you something personal? Of course. You know what this work does to your bodies. The aging, the damage, the pain. Why do you accept it? Sora stopped working and looked at him. Her face was serious. Because I took an oath, as a doctor, to preserve life. All life. When I joined the Rapid Response Fleet, I knew the cost. 5 years on a ship like this takes maybe 8 years off my life. But in those 5 years, I will help save hundreds of people. Maybe thousands. 8 years of my life, for thousands of other people's lives. That is a trade I can accept. But those years are yours. Your time, your future. And what would I do with those years? Sora asked. Live safely on Earth, treating common illnesses, never taking risks? That is a good life. And I do not judge anyone who chooses it, but it is not the life I wanted. I wanted to matter. I wanted to make a real difference. Out here, in the dark, when someone is dying and I save them, that is when I matter most. She returned to organizing supplies. Besides, she added, we get good benefits. The military takes care of us after our service, and we can be proud of what we did. How many people can say they saved thousands of lives? By evening, the repairs were complete. Tejo, rested now, ran the final diagnostics. Every system checked out. The luminous horizon was fully functional again. We also upgraded a few things, Tejo said with a grin. Your engine efficiency is now 10% better. And we reinforced some stress points that looked weak. You should have no problems. Tejo, you did more than repair, Relvash said in wonder. You improved our ship. Well, we had the parts, Tejo said with a shrug. And it only took a few extra hours. Why not leave you better than we found you? The Velkari crew gathered in the cargo bay as the humans prepared to leave. There were hugs. A human custom that felt awkward, but meaningful. Yuna embraced Relvash, and he felt unexpected emotion rise in his chest. Thank you, he said. Thank you for everything. You are welcome, Yuna said. Safe travels, Captain. If you ever need help again, we will be listening. The humans returned to their shuttles. Tejo, Hana, Sora, Jinwoo, and all the others who had worked so hard. They looked exhausted, but happy. They had done their job. As the shuttles pulled away, Relvash stood on the bridge with Yelmar, watching the Dauntless on the view screen. The big battleship sat in space, scarred and battered from its work, but still strong, still ready. Commander Kim's voice came over the communication channel one last time. Captain Relvash, you are clear to proceed. The nearest Velkari station is at coordinates we sent to your navigation. You should reach it in 3 days. Thank you, Commander. What will you do now? Return to our patrol. There is a lot of empty space out here, Captain. Someone needs to watch it. Commander, I have to ask one more question. Your crew, they sacrifice so much. Their health, their time, years of their lives. They damage your ship. They push themselves until they can barely function. All to save people they do not know. How do you convince them to do this? This pace. They do not know. There was a long pause before Kim answered. I do not convince them, Captain. They volunteer. Every single person on this ship chose to be here. They knew the cost, and they came anyway. Do you want to know why? Yes, because everyone on this ship has lost someone, a family member, a friend, someone they loved who died in space, far from help. Maybe rescue came too late. Maybe it never came at all. Every person on the Dauntless knows what it is like to lose someone who might have been saved, and they decided they would do everything in their power to make sure it does not happen to others. Kim's voice grew softer. We are not heroes, Captain. We are just people who could not stand the thought of someone else going through what we went through. That is all. Test. Relvash felt tears form in his eyes, a Velkari response to strong emotion. You are wrong, Commander. You are heroes. You just do not realize it. Maybe, Kim said. But we do not do this for recognition. We do it because it needs doing. Safe travels, Captain. Dauntless out. The communication ended. On the view screen, the Dauntless turned and began to move away. Its engines glowed bright as it prepared for another high-speed jump. Going back to the empty sectors, going back to wait and watch and listen for the next distress call. Relvash watched until the human ship vanished into FTL, a streak of light disappearing into the darkness. They hurt themselves to save us, Yelmar said quietly. Their bodies, their ship, their lives, all given freely. Yes, Relvash said. And they will do it again tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. Until they cannot do it anymore. Should we tell others about this? About what humans are doing? Relvash thought about it. Yes. The galaxy should know. Should know that someone is standing watch in the dark places. Should know that when you call for help, humans will answer. He looked at the empty space where the Dauntless had been. Should know that some people will pay any price to save strangers. The journey back to Velkari space took 3 days. During that time, Relvash thought constantly about the humans. He replayed every conversation, every moment. He tried to understand how a species could be so different from his own. The Velkari were careful. They calculated risks. They protected themselves first, then helped others when it was safe to do so. This was logical. This was survival. But the humans threw logic away when someone needed help. They jumped into danger. They hurt themselves. They gave years of their lives. It was not logical. But it was something else. Something Relvash could not quite name. Yelmar spent the journey analyzing all the data he had collected. Medical scans, ship readings, recordings of conversations. He compiled it all into a detailed report. This will change how people think about humans, Yelmar said. When the galactic community learns what they are doing, it will be important news. Will people believe it? Relvash asked. The data does not lie. The Dauntless's damage is real. The crew's medical readings are real. The speed of their response is documented. They will have to believe it. When the luminous horizon finally arrived at the Velkari station, Relvash was met by officials and reporters. News of their rescue had already spread. The story of a human ship appearing 4 hours after a distress call had created excitement and disbelief in equal measure. Captain Relvash, is it true that humans saved your ship? Asked a reporter. Yes, Relvash said. Without them, my crew and I would be dead. How did they arrive so quickly? They were already there, in the empty sectors, waiting. The reporter looked confused. Waiting for what? For anyone who needs help. Over the following days, Relvash told the story again and again. He spoke to government officials, scientists, military commanders. He showed them the data, the recordings, the evidence, and slowly, people began to understand. Humans had created an entire fleet of ships dedicated to rescue operations. They positioned these ships in the most dangerous, desolate parts of space. They pushed their technology to the breaking point. They sacrificed their health and their ships, all to save strangers. The story spread beyond Velkari space. Other species heard about it. Some thought the humans were foolish. Why waste resources on empty space? Why risk so much for people you do not know? But others understood. Others remembered times when they had been in danger, when they had needed help, when rescue had come too late, or not at all. Those people looked at humanity with new eyes. 3 months after the rescue, Relvash received a message on his personal communication device. It was from Commander Kim. Captain Relvash, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to let you know that the Dauntless rescued another ship last week. A Threxian mining vessel with 43 crew. Engine failure, just like yours. We got to them in 6 hours. Everyone survived. I thought you would want to know. Relvash wrote back immediately. Thank you for telling me, Commander. How is your crew? The response came a day later. Tired. We have had 7 rescues this month. The ship needs repairs. But we are still here. Still watching. 7 rescues. In 1 month. And that was just 1 ship. Across the galaxy, 40 human rapid response ships were doing the same work. Hundreds of lives saved every month. Thousands every year. Relvash began giving talks about his experience. He spoke at universities, military academies, government assemblies. He told the story of the Dauntless and its crew. He showed the data, explained the costs, described the sacrifice. Humans are teaching us something important, he would say. They are showing us that safety and caution are not always the highest values. Sometimes, helping others is more important than protecting yourself. Sometimes, caring about strangers is worth any price. Not everyone agreed with him. Many Velkari thought the humans were being foolish. They will destroy their ships and themselves, critics said. This is not sustainable. It will end badly. But Yelmar had different data to share. I have been tracking the human rapid response fleet. Yes. Their ships suffer more damage. Yes. Their crews age faster. But do you know what else is true? The number of deep space deaths in sectors near human patrol routes has dropped by 70%. 70% fewer people dying alone, in the dark. That number made people stop and think. 70%. Hundreds of lives every year that would have been lost were now being saved. 6 months after the rescue, something unexpected happened. A Velkari corporation announced they were funding their own rapid response ship. It would patrol sectors near Velkari space, offering help to any species in distress. We were inspired by the humans, the corporate leader said. If they can do this, so can we. We cannot match their speed or their sacrifice, but we can try to follow their example. Other species began similar programs. A Threxian ship, a Mindari ship, small efforts, carefully planned. Not as aggressive as the human approach, but it was a start. Relvash watched these developments with interest. Humanity was changing the galaxy, not through military might or economic power, but through example. They were showing other species that caring for strangers was possible. That someone could stand, watch, in the dark. A year after the rescue, Relvash attended a galactic conference on space safety. Commander Kim was there, representing the human rapid response fleet. They met in person for the first time since the rescue. Captain Relvash, Kim said, shaking his hand in the human way. Good to see you alive and well. Thanks to you and your crew, Commander. They sat together during a break in the conference. Kim looked older than his voice had suggested. There were lines around his eyes, gray in his hair. The cost of his work showing on his body. I heard other species are starting their own response fleets, Kim said. That is good. We need more ships out there. You inspired them, Relvash said. You showed them it was possible. Kim shook his head. We just did what needed doing, but I am glad others are joining. The galaxy is huge. 40 human ships cannot cover everything. We need help. Will your species continue this work, even now that others are helping? Of course, Kim said without hesitation. This is who we are now. When we look at the stars, we do not just see territory to claim or resources to mine. We see people who might need help. We cannot turn away from that. Even when it costs you so much. Kim smiled, a tired but genuine expression. Especially then. The hard things are the most important things. Anyone can help when it is easy. We choose to help when it is hard. At the conference, a memorial was unveiled. It was a simple monument with names engraved on it. Names of people who had died in deep space accidents over the past year. But next to the names was a number. Lives saved. The number was larger than the number of dead. For the first time in galactic history, more people were being rescued from deep space emergencies than were dying. This is because of humanity, the conference leader said, gesturing to the monument. They showed us that we could do better. That we should do better. They paid the price to prove it was possible. After the conference, Relvash sent one final message to Commander Kim. Thank you for answering when we called. Thank you for standing watch in the dark. Thank you for caring when no one would have blamed you for not caring. Kim's response was simple. Thank you for letting us help. That is all we ever wanted. To be there when someone needs us. Relvash looked out at the stars from his quarters. Somewhere out there, the Dauntless was on patrol. Somewhere out there, 40 human ships were waiting, listening, ready to respond. And now, other ships from other species were joining them. The galaxy was still dangerous. Ships still failed. Accidents still happened. But now, when someone sent a distress signal into the void, there was a much better chance someone would answer. Quickly. Humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson. Not through force or demands, but through action. They had shown that caring about strangers was not weakness, that sacrifice for others was noble, that standing watch in the empty places was important work. Some species would never understand. They would continue to prioritize safety and caution above all else. And that was fine. The galaxy needed different kinds of people. But some species would learn from the human example. They would send their own ships into the dark. They would stand their own watches. And slowly, the galaxy was becoming a little less cruel. A little less lonely. A little safer. Because humanity had decided that no one should die alone in the dark if it could be prevented. And they had been willing to pay any price to make that happen. Relvash looked at a photo on his desk. It showed him and his crew with the humans who had saved them. Tired faces. Exhausted but smiling. Heroes who did not think they were heroes. People who had given everything to save strangers. Thank you, Relvash said to the photo. Thank you for being there. Thank you for answering. Outside his window, a ship launched from the station. A new Velkari, rapid response vessel, heading out to its patrol route. It was smaller than the Dauntless, slower, less aggressive, but it was there, standing watch, following humanity's example. The galaxy was learning. And somewhere in the deep dark of space, the Dauntless continued its eternal patrol, waiting, watching, listening, ready to answer instantly when someone called for help, always.